Hi everyone, welcome to today's session on editing project templates. Today we'll be going through the essentials for those who are tasked with editing the Revit project template, which is the .rte file. We're going to go through some tips, peculiarities, and common pitfalls. Important to note, this is not a how-to. It's more of a summary of 15 years of experience editing project templates and general observations to try to pass on the wisdom to you guys. You may or may not be someone who edits the project template within your firm, but it's important to know some of the work that goes into this, even when you're requesting changes. So quick disclaimer that editing should only be done by the nominated people within your firm. Okay, let's get into it. Our first cab off the rank is process. So we've got tips here for today. Let's head over to our bimco top tip for processes. So first one, have a clearly documented process that covers who can update, how to update, and record what is updated for your project template. So this is a very theory-based one. I'll bring over what we've got here for the bimco project template. We've got the process, we've got authority to change, who's able to change it, the update process. So we've got clear instructions where it's edited in an unreleased version. There's a change log that's updated. We'll open that up. And once it's updated, you may release it in batches, and you should record those as well, all those changes with dates into the update release process. Here's the bimco project template, for instance. So all of the little changes, dates, screenshots about what's actually changed in there, and what's been added and why as well is always handy. Locations of the project template is always handy to have as well. All right, heading back to Revit. Over to tip 2, standards. bimco top tip 2, which is standards. So keep naming consistent throughout for effective data management. It's pretty much just, speaking from a BIM manager's gospel there, keeping things consistent. So I've got a few standards here. I'm just going to flick through. We're not going to go through them in too much detail. Say family naming, making sure that you've got consistent family naming. We tend to go reverse order so that things stack in alphabetical order within your project browser. For instance, like all the doors will be together, all the tags will be together, for instance. Makes it easy to find stuff and to filter things as well. Type naming, same again. Look, it's most important to stick with what's in your project template. If your standards don't match ours, that's fine. You just continue what's been done. That's really important, even the way things are named. Parameter standards, guidelines of those are, of course, very important. You should have a shared parameters file set up for your company. You should have rules around grouping, naming, when to use type and instance, and shared parameter files. Here's one on filters. Look, we could have naming on all sorts of things, and we do have all sorts of things. And this is sort of one of those smaller ones, but it just gives you an example of some of the extents that you should go to, and as a project template editor, to make sure you've got consistency. And finally, subcategories, probably one of the most important ones. Look, they're all important, but having a very well documented and defined subcategory list, which has the name of the subcategory, the type of line types that it's using, and its application as well. And that should extend through to all the families that you build and all the families that are brought in to your project template. Lastly, with standards, complete the change in one sitting. If you're undergoing a project template upgrade where it requires a lot of repetitive work across many different elements, say view templates, don't start it knowing that you're not going to finish it or you'll be in a mad rush. Start it when you've got the time and you know you can finish it. It's very difficult to come back and continue and remember where you left off. Okay, bimco top tip number 3, elements. So elements revolves around the importing of elements and bringing in elements into the project template. So only bring in company approved families to avoid non-standard items. If you are bringing in families, pretty much just try to clean them up and make sure they're built to standard. Ideally, recreate them. Don't bring in any manufacturer content. There's just too many gremlins, which I'll show you in a moment in the next sort of section. Never bring in DWG, PDFs, or images, and beware of things like hidden subcategories. Okay, let's go and have a look at a family that I've brought into this project, which is not built to standard. Here it is here. I think I can close that. We've got one. This is the family. So I brought this in first. It's got junk subcategories. It's got materials under the wrong category, wrong groups. It's got a width, which is a non-standard shared parameter. It's got materials, which has the wrong look. It's got this hatch on it. This is the wrong line weight for the subcategory. There's DWGs, there's images. It's basically all the things you shouldn't do. Some of this you might not even know exists. I've really brought it to the surface, but it's quite hidden. Say, for instance, when you bring this in, let's just have a look at some of the consequences of doing this. So hidden subcategories. If I actually have a look at the subcategories in this family, we can see, yeah, we've got electrical equipment, battery systems, got a horrendously wrong line weight and a junk line pattern applied to it under electrical equipment. So note that. Okay, so once that's brought into the project, it'll actually bring all that with it. So if we go into the object styles here, go into electrical equipment, you can see it's actually brought in that projection, junk line pattern, etc. It's also defined extra additional hidden subcategories that you might not be aware of. So if I go down to generic models, we've got a junk subcategory here. It's brought that in as well. Now, you won't even notice that that's there because when you go into the family, it's not accessible. But if you switch the category over to generic models, you'll see that is indeed in here. So not everything is always apparently at the surface. So be very, very careful what you bring in. So bringing that in, even though it's not visible, that subcategory does come into your project, comes into your project template, very difficult to remove. The other one there is first group phenomenon. We have here a material that's been brought in, and that material, if I go into the family, we've got battery underscore material. It's a brand new material. I just made it up. It's got this horrible material applied here. And it's got, what have we got? Fire protection as the group. So this is what's called first group phenomenon. The very first time this shared parameter is brought into the project template that defines the group. So fire protection will be forever the group for that shared parameter. Come into here. We've got one that's been built to standard. Here's the built to standard one. We go into the types. We can see battery material. It's under materials and finishes as it should be. Back to the project. And this has inherited the horrible fire protection grouping, even though it's built to the standard. You can see it's also inherited the incorrect subcategory because that's been brought in, and the horrible material as well there. So first group phenomenon, hidden subcategories, materials. We've got the materials browser. It's got some junk materials in there. So we go click here. Battery material, that's come in. Having some glitches on this materials browser for whatever reason. Maybe I've broken the project template. Something is not happy. That's all right. Point made. Got some junk that's come in there. Also object styles, line patterns and fill patterns. So object styles is the subcategories. Line patterns, we go into LP line patterns. That's come in, that junk line pattern with the subcategory. And the fill patterns, FP, we go into model, we've got a junk pattern that's come in with the material as well. Last one. the width. So here we have a width of which says 1200 under dimensions, looks perfect. Click on this one, width 1200, looks perfect, but it's from two different shared parameter files. They have two different global unique identifiers. Therefore, they do not schedule in the same line. So one is built to the standards, one is built rogue. If I open up this schedule, you can see the rogue one. The parameter is called width, but it's not going to stack with everything else. So having a consistent shared parameter file, applying your shared parameters consistently across your family is really, really important. All right, tip number 4, defaults. Retrace your steps for any actions in the template to return all settings to their defaults. Okay, so first one is make sure your project browser is as it should be presented to the users when they first open it. I've made an absolute mess here and I've left all of these things open. That is how it will be when the first person starts their project. So what you need to do is use the left arrow key here and close all these things down. Retrace your steps back so as if you were never there, right? Close all these things up. And I might need a couple of these, so I'm just going to leave them open for now. Origins of walls. Let's head into our temporary view here. We've got level ground. Okay, so when we draw our wall, look, we like to have our walls with the exterior face on the outside for the location line like that. Just means when you're sketching a shape in and you've got a building profile, you can then quickly swap the wall to something else and it's going to stretch in. So you're not going to go over title boundaries. So you're thinking about schematic design here. Now, if you go in and you make some changes to your project template and you start using different wall types, in particular, like glazing systems, it will automatically change the location line to the center. So when we go to set it back to our generic wall, which is generic external 200, it's going to be naturally in the center. The same applies for all of these instance parameters. If you go and change these settings to say 500 offset or this thing's unconnected and that one's only, I don't know, 600 high, like you hit escape, you save up your template, the next person who starts to draw their first wall will get a base offset of 500, an unconnected wall with 600 and a wall with a location line on the center line. You have to make sure all of these things are restored exactly as you want them to be for every user. Now, this applies to every single tool in the entire interface. So for those editing project templates, your checklist is to go through every tool and place one of everything to make sure it's ready. Now, if you haven't placed those things in your session, that's okay. Don't worry about it. But if you've just done a massive upgrade and you don't know what you've touched, you're going to have to check everything. So it's got to be really careful, right? Like a surgeon. Next thing, last loaded tag will become the default. So here we have a door. We've got a circle tag. We put in another door next to it. It's got a circle tag, right? Undo that. Now, if I load in a new door tag, I'll just bring in one that's a hexagon. Now place a new door. That's now the default. You have to go back into your annotate, tag, loaded tags, and just make sure everything is as it should be. When you load it in, it will be the new item by default. Okay. Right. So that's across the board for all tags. Never change levels in 3D. Only use 2 sections. So in 3D, when you manipulate these levels, nothing else changes. You can see that there, which is problematic because you really want to keep these things all locked together. So what we want to do instead is if you do want to change levels, look, that's what we've done here. So it's incorrect. You always want to click the level, drag it in an elevation. We've really done it very carefully to a very particular dimension. So avoid the use of cropping. So in other words, don't go cropping some of these things. You'll turn these into 2D extents like that. and then you'll be changing them and then wonder why they're not actually shifting in 3D. Delete all elements placed in testing. So when you are doing some testing on various things in your project template, make sure you wipe them out. Check 3D and fix any elements that are not in the correct phasing. So you want to go into 3D. Look, we've got some stuff down here that shouldn't exist. So you can select those elements. You can see, well, they're on existing. Why are they there? Just go to phase filter, set it to none. Just have a look what else is there. So these are actually repository type items. So we want to set them to repository and we want them demolished in the existing phase. Then, of course, retrace your steps. Head back to show current and previous so that you've got your default set up. Very careful to retrace your steps. Last change on any mark value for any element will be the start of the next sequence. So, okay, so we've put in 2 doors here. We've played around, we've tested, we've deleted them. Let's put in a new wall. Now let's put in a new door. Okay, someone's about to start a new project, right? They put in their first door. It's door 2. All right. And that's also having issues because that wall's drawn at a very strange height because I haven't fixed it. So door 2, it's coming in as. So if you want to get that back to the default, place a door, set it to 0, delete it. And then the next person who goes to draw will have a door that comes in as 1, like so. Same for grids. If you go and draw a grid, it's going to just continually incrementally update, even if you delete them like that. It's just what's going to be. So set it back to 0 and away you go. That applies to everything with a mark value. Okay. And lastly, the last sheet created will be the start of the new sheet sequence as well. So if I've created a sheet and if I go new sheet here, and we'll just go a generic one here, it's going to be A01. If I delete that, create a new sheet, let's just say we left it there. We saved our project template. Someone came along and went new sheet, first project, bang. They're going to get, what do you reckon? A02. It's just little things like that, housekeeping. All right, over to tip 5, BIMco's top tip number 5, excess. So keep project templates light. Have workflows for loading as required. Look, this just plays back into some of the other points as well. You bring in heaps of families. How can you control that they're all to the right standard? You've got to be so careful, right? If you bring in a whole bunch of garbage on a whim, you're going to ruin the project template. That sounds like an overstatement, but you basically will. And it's incredibly difficult to reverse the damage done. So you need to have project templates kept really light and just bring in stuff as you need. Therefore, if something does come in a project and it's a wrong family, we can address it. We can then clean it up and make sure that next time it comes in, it's to the standard. First one there is just avoid sheet overload. Like there's no need to create 100 sheets in here. Look, there's so many tools out there that you can use to quickly create heaps of sheets. So I'll do a bunch of sheets in like 30 seconds for you. So you've got a standard list from your company, which has your sheets, could be for different job types. I'll just copy that. We'll go into the Sheets tool, batch sheet maker with Revit, paste that in, create sheets, click create, and you can create however many 16 sheets in 10 seconds. And there they all are. So there's no need to create all these unless you're already pre-setting them up with views and things. All right, limit loaded families. We already sort of touched on that. Just don't bring in all that garbage. Just bring it in as you need. So if you bring in all this extra stuff, it's just going to sit there and bloat the file unnecessarily. You want a light project template for schematic design. You might have some libraries that you can bring in, some repository files or something. It doesn't matter if those families aren't necessarily to standard because You can clean them up. You're not going to ruin the project template. The project template is just this like thing that just needs to be treated with utmost respect, right? Don't include all settings within view templates to avoid a new view template being created for small variations. So if I go into our view settings here, view templates, manage view templates, what we often see is that people have built their own project template that have absolutely everything ticked. And it just means that as soon as someone wants a different detail level, they have to create a new view template. If they want to use a different settings for imports, potentially there's different levels to be shown or links to be shown. What ends up happening is you're showing ground floor on, say, level 1's plans, for instance. So what people do is then they create a new variation of the view template, but then you're essentially ruining the efficiency of view templates. So lighten it up. Just include some basic visual graphics overrides mostly, and allow people to make little changes, little tweaks between views. Therefore, you won't end up with hundreds of variations of view templates. And of course, always audit and compact the file. So whenever you do a save, up here, save as template, and just make sure that in options, you compact the file. When you do that save, you can set up your thumbnail preview as well while you're there. And audit it when you go to open it next time. That's probably what you do when you first open it. Okay, they're the top tips. Finally, some unexposed settings that you won't be able to change. Work sharing. Can't change work sharing. It's not a work shared file, so you can't set up work sets. But you can use, again, some productivity tools. Bimco has the work set creator tool. Go in here, and once you start a new project, you'll be able to just type in the work sets, click create. So just build those into your workflows for people starting new projects. Link settings, don't have any links. We don't want to bring in any links. We can't change any link settings. That whole tab doesn't exist. You go into visibility graphics for your view, there'll be nothing there. And categories from future versions. Revit has released additional and new categories over time. You can't change things that don't exist. So you just have to change what you can and then manage your project template that way. We tend to build in an older version and just let everyone upgrade. So 2022, we're in here. That's on purpose. Therefore, we can just use this one project template across the board. We've only got one thing to change, and a 1 minute change is worth 1 minute of change time, not 10 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes of change time, which can be the case where you have many project templates. You can also end up with inconsistencies, very difficult to manage. So that's probably the last little pearl of wisdom there. Thank you, everyone, for your time.